cold. I don't know why.
All right,
I am too. I was made for the desert. In case you can't tell,
No, what are you talking about? How?
Where do you come from, Mr. PK?
I come from the desert.
From the desert. We just took a short bathroom break, guys. So where do you come from? The desert? Arizona?
From the desert. No,
Arizona?
Grand Canyon?
come from the desert.
The
Which desert?
Any desert.
Any desert?
Yeah, right now, I'll settle for any desert, especially after this polar vortex that we went through. I will never forget those 3 days, dude.
That was terrible, wasn't it?
I could be old and have Alzheimer's, and I will not forget those 3 days.
Yeah.
That's the day that Jesse Smollett went outside
Was it?
during the polar vortex. It was the night of it was like 2 a.m. too, like probably when it was the coldest, -40.
Poor guys. Poor guys.
Yeah,
They had to work in that type of weather.
Yeah. All right, so we were talking about good credit and bad credit, not Jesse Smollett. So we'll get off that topic.
But what one more thing, because you mentioned that you'll never forget the polar vortex. It's similar to what was the year where all that heavy snowstorm that was like
2011, my friend.
No, there was a big one in the 70s.
Oh,
Huge.
Oh,
Why'd
I
you
don't
look at
remember.
me like I
Yeah,
was alive
Yeah,
in the
dude.
70s?
Why are you
Oh.
looking at?
I think-
dude, you're looking at us like, what was it?
He had-
What year
That's
was
what he
there?
said it like he was living in the 70s, right?
I've heard from old folks.
Ralphie, how old are you?
I feel like I'm 78 sometimes.
Jeez.
Man,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't remember that one. Maybe because I wasn't even a twinkle in my parents' eyes.
Where do you come from?
I come from India.
India.
Yeah, my parents are from India,
You,
and
were you born there?
yeah, I was.
Okay.
When did you come to the States?
I came to the States in the 80s. I was just a toddler.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
do
was
you
young.
do you remember that? Do you remember India?
Yeah.
Or you do?
I do.
Have you been there recently?
The last time I was there was 93. And the reason I remember it is because my family went back for almost a year. So I've experienced Indian schools.
You attended?
I attended second grade. Second grade, I spent it in India. So
What are some differences that you've seen in India versus here?
back then,
Yeah, like
I mean, any information I give you is going to be outdated because it's developed significantly. I mean, there's a staggering difference between the 1992 India and the current India. And I haven't gone back. I haven't set foot there. So my perspective from back then, that era, I mean, it was still a third world country back then.
Yeah.
We didn't have running water.
You're saying your family didn't have running water?
Well, not all the time. What the government would do is they would turn the taps on between like 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. or there was some time where they would turn the taps on, and it was your job. Everyone had this retention tank on their roof, kind of like they have in New York. If you look at the tall buildings in New York, a lot of the older buildings, they have those retention tanks, kind of like that, but at a smaller residential scale. And you'd have to fill that up. And since those are on the roof, you'd have to buy this special water pump. I remember that much. And then if you didn't have the pump, you'd have to borrow it from your neighbor. And, it was, people were resourceful and made the best of what they had. So,
Yeah. So you don't come from money? Not at all.
no.
Yeah.
In India, my mom was a teacher and my dad worked for the government in the health department.
And what was your living conditions? Were
Middle class.
middle class?
Just, yeah.
Yeah. And what made your parents make the move? Did they have family here?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom's side of the family is all in California.
Okay.
And my grandfather's brother came first, his younger brother. And then he got settled, and then he called my grandfather over from my mom's side. And then they eventually, that's the Indian way. Where one goes, they all go.
Yeah.
So from India you went to California.
Yeah.
Okay. How long did you live to California, and what brought you to Illinois?
we lived in California for a year or two. I did kindergarten and part of first grade there. And we went back to India. I did second grade there, and then we came back. I think there were some immigration issues where we had to go back and then reapply to get back in. But there was some technicality where you'd be in some preferred line if you already came here once. The re-entry process was a lot easier. So you had to go back for a few months. I think it was like a total of 10 or 11 months or something. And then, we got our stamp of approval. We came back and we landed in Chicago. And I've never looked back since. I've been here since then.